Can we talk, actually, just first of all about that TV debate before we get on to other issues?
Yeah.
Joe Swinson has accused the party leaders of being sexist or scared or both. Is Boris Johnson sexist or scared or both?
Neither. I think we're going to have all sorts of invitations to all sorts of debates during the course of this election, and I think we'll see Boris on a range of platforms. Ultimately, however, respect to Joe Swinson, but the choice at this election is between Jeremy Corbyn as Prime Minister and Boris Johnson as Prime Minister. And even Joe Swinson's biggest fans don't believe that she's going to be in number 10 Downing Street with a majority Liberal Democrat government. So the real choice, therefore, and the way in which, we look at the whole question of debates has to be, who do you want to be Prime Minister? Do you want Boris Johnson with Brexit done and a Prime Minister focusing on the people's priorities? Or do you want Jeremy Corbyn? And I'm afraid Brexit dragging on, 2 referendums next year, one on Europe, one on Scotland, and a failure really to get on with what the country wants, which is proper government.
Well, of course, this is a key part of the letter that Boris Johnson, your party leader, has written to Jeremy Corbyn late last night, calling on him to, in his words, come clean over his Brexit policy before we head to the ballot box, saying voters deserve to have a clear picture of how each leader will handle the next steps of EU departure. Of course, he has been very clear. He wants to have a new negotiation. He says it will take 3 months, and then they'll go and have a second referendum between the deal that Labour has negotiated, I suppose they said the Tory Brexit that Boris Johnson's negotiated, or Remain. He says it'll all be over and done with in 6 months' time. There'll be a lot of voters who would like to have that choice.
Well, I'm afraid that Jeremy Corbyn's Brexit policy is about as clear and straightforward as an apology from Vicky Pollard. And the problem with his Brexit policy is that he wants to go back to square one, renegotiate the whole Brexit deal when we've got a great deal with Boris. Then, having spent all that time renegotiating it, he's going to bring it back in a referendum. He won't even say whether or not he would back his own deal. But even before he's begun to negotiate it, Diane Abbott and Emily Thornberry have said that they would vote against any deal he brings back. Well, if Diane Abbott cannot trust Jeremy Corbyn to get a good Brexit deal, why should any of the rest of us?
So as far as you're concerned, that whatever deal they get isn't going to be a good deal in your view. But what about what you say you've got a good deal with Boris Johnson? And again, you managed amazingly, I think, against a lot of people's expectations, to get at least one vote in Parliament for that deal. However, we know one person who doesn't like that deal is the Brexit Party leader, Nigel Farage. And he said, basically, unless Boris Johnson tears up that deal and agrees to go for a free trade agreement or a no-deal Brexit, he's going to stand 600 candidates in the 650 seats and challenge the Tory party, many expecting that could actually bring about a hung parliament rather than a Tory majority. Is the Prime Minister willing to tear up his deal? Is he willing to negotiate? Is he willing to give something to Nigel Farage to cause him to stand down those candidates?
No.
That's not going to happen.
No.
Even though there's a threat from the Brexit Party splitting the Leave vote. We saw it in the Brecon by-election, didn't we? The Tory vote came second. With the Brexit Party votes, would have beat the then eventual winner, the Lib Democrat. We can see a Remainer Parliament coming back, a hung Parliament coming back. That means no Brexit. Would it not be worth some sort of negotiation? We know the ERG Eurosceptics, Andrew Bridge and the like, are trying to attempt to broker some sort of deal.
I think that there's a real question here for Nigel Farage. Nigel's fought very hard to get Britain out of the European Union. We now have a deal that takes us out of the EU, one United Kingdom, whole and entire. And I hope that on reflection he will say, actually, do you know what? The best thing to do is to stand down. If he doesn't, that's fair enough. That will be his choice. Then one of the things that will be clear is that anyone who, as you quite rightly point out, anyone who votes for any party other than the Conservatives risks letting Corbyn into Downing Street. And so, in that sense, during the course of this general election, we'll be making clear, if you want Brexit done, if you just want us to move on and concentrate on all the other big issues facing the country, then what you need to do is to make sure that we have a majority government with Boris as Prime Minister and a proper majority in the House of Commons that allows them to govern.
Is no deal still going to be on or off the table come December 2020? That's a transition period where we've been told we can get a deal or, a free trade deal, the moving on deal, and everything will change at that point. Michel Barnier is still staying on as the EU's chief negotiator for that, says it will take 3 years. You reckon you can do it by the end of December 2020? At that point, if there isn't a deal on the table, do we leave no deal, or are we going to be stuck in that transition period forever?
No. We can get a good deal done in time, and we're clear that we'll be leaving, or concluding rather, this free trade deal by the end of 2020. That'll be the end of the transition period. And Boris moved from square one to getting a good deal in 90 days over the course of the summer and autumn. And I think that we'll be able to conclude a good deal with the EU in good time.
There's also a lot of talk at the moment, not just about Brexit, about public services. And there seems to be something of an arms race, looking at it as a voter, in terms of who can spend the most in terms of money for police, for education, for schools, for infrastructure. There's a report out today, which I know that the Tory party's been commenting on, in terms of the cost of the 5 days' pay for a 4-day working week, which Labour want to look at. The Liberal Democrats have announced, they say, a £50 billion Remain bonus for public services by remaining in the EU rather than leaving. It's a bit difficult for voters to trust a lot of this, isn't it, when everyone is pledging to spend so much money, and a lot of it is over a lot of different years, like the hospitals pledge, is over 2 terms from the Tory party, 2 terms of a Tory government. How much do you think voters are going to be swayed by these pledges and these promises when we know that trust in politicians of all political hues is at an all-time low?
Yeah, I absolutely take that point. In a way, the evidence in front of us is of a Conservative government that has been able to deliver. So we're in the middle of delivering the biggest cash injection that the NHS has ever had, while at the same time we're paying down the deficit and reducing debt overall. So it's not just the case that we're looking forward with confidence, it's also the case that you can have confidence in the Conservative record. But ultimately, the only way that we can make sure that we have the focus on the NHS, on police and on education that we need is by getting Brexit done. And Labour won't do that. They will continue to perpetuate this paralysed Parliament, and we won't have the focus on the people's priorities that we need.
How do people have trust in you and your party delivering, though? We saw today an investigation by the National Audit Office saying that a programme to build 60,000 discounted starter homes for first-time buyers, having been launched 4 years ago, spending £2.3 billion, hasn't delivered a single new home.
Well, we have actually delivered new homes.
That's what the National Audit Office says.
Yeah, last year there were 222,000 new homes built. That's the highest number in all but one of the last 30 years. Overall, we've built 1.3 million new homes. 430,000 of them are affordable. And we've also helped 560,000 people to get on the housing ladder through Help to Buy or other schemes. So it is the case, and of course there's more to be done, but it is the case that we have been focusing on making sure that people have an opportunity to have a home they can call their own.
Can we also talk about, front page of The Guardian today, the Prime Minister's accused of a cover-up over a report on Russian meddling in UK politics. There have been some claims made. Emily Thornberry, the Shadow Foreign Secretary, has been questioning and sending letters to the Cabinet Secretary and the Prime Minister about Dominic Cummings, the man who used to be your chief advisor, now, of course, with the Prime Minister. The committee chairman, former Conservative Dominic Grieve, head of the Intelligence and Security Committee, says that there are big concerns. Jaw-dropping, he says, that a report that his committee has done into Russian meddling in UK politics is not going to be published ahead of the general election. This is just going to boost all of the conspiracy theories. Is that a big mistake? Should that report be published? And are you concerned about Russian meddling? Well,
I am concerned about Russian interference in this country, and the most striking example of Russian interference in this country was when Vladimir Putin unleashed a Novichok attack in Salisbury. And at that time, Boris Johnson was Foreign Secretary. He led a united diplomatic effort in order to make sure that we struck back against Vladimir Putin. Jeremy Corbyn, I'm afraid, made excuses for Vladimir Putin and wrote in The Guardian that he didn't want to be too critical of Russia because he didn't want to initiate a new Cold War. We know that if we're thinking about standing up to foreign powers, that Boris will stand up for Britain. We know, sadly, that Jeremy Corbyn's record is one of far too often siding with people who wish this country ill.
Can I also ask you about something that's not within your remit, but I have a funny feeling you might have an opinion on? Marks and Spencer have sparked quite a lot of anger, certainly among people like myself, after they have become the latest high street store to allow trans women, who are still biologically men, to use women-only changing rooms. Bearing in mind, often in fitting rooms in Marks and Spencer, you often got people, women trying on, underwear, trying on bras. They're well known for their bra fitting service. Lots of concern that this is, activism by trans groups who don't necessarily represent ordinary trans people. Many parents, including myself, concerned about biological men using this to be in the changing room surrounded with young girls and women. Do you think this is a step too far? Do you think that it's time that high street stores who are pressured into this by trans activism stood up for the, let's face it, largely silent majority on these issues, and we had a little bit more common sense on this?
I think it's a uniquely sensitive area. I think that individual stores will make their own judgment, and then individual consumers will make their own judgment about what those stores do. It's an area where, because of the sensitivity concerned, I think I probably shouldn't say more than that at this stage.
You've got children. You're happy for your daughter to be in a changing room with a biological man?
I think it's probably.
You're not, though, are you? You're not.
This is an area of unique sensitivity. I think, given it's a complex area, and it's one where I think that we do need to recognise that there are individuals who we need to be respectful towards, and
absolutely.
Therefore I won't stray into it any further.
But absolutely we should be respectful. Absolutely, no one wants any people to be badly treated or not have full rights. But at the end of the day, we are talking about people pre-op, biologically men, going into women's changing rooms, girls' changing rooms, and you're happy with that as a father?
I think it's a sensitive issue. As I say, I think it's for individual stores to make their own decisions, and we as individual consumers to make our own decisions about what the stores do.